And how have you been?
Well, thank you. We're now live. Thank you
Oh,
very
great.
much. Yes, yes, yes. No, it's really such a joy to have you here. Adebola, what an amazing session we just had. I mean, when we talk about being an influencer, you know, your brand speaks to it already. So it's really an excitement to have you at the Emergence Conference. This is the first year that we've had male speakers. So you and Jimmy, Chuba, Chine are some of the guys who made the rounds in the very first year when we had men. So glad to have you and thank you very much once again.
Good to be.
I mean, the conversation the chat was buzzing, as you shared such key principles that's extremely important. I tried to make sure that I could capture some of the comments that were coming through, to be a real influencer, to impact people, the power of vision. It's not like we don't know a lot of these things, but sometimes, and the way it's delivered was strong and a reminder of what I'm calling the moment we're in, that there is a clarion call, and what you were sharing was exuding that this is the time. There's a call. You need to rise up as a leader. I loved a lot of that. And I guess my first question would be this. You've done so much work with the youth, you made reference to it. We see an emergence of a new form of leadership, but we see that leadership is mixed. If we look at the uprising this summer in the US that went around the world with Black Lives Matter, we see the uprising that obviously came up in Nigeria with End SARS. There
Mm,
is a hunger for a different type of leadership, but sometimes you find out that there is a mixed crowd, and sometimes the noise, the impact of what's being said isn't long lasting. What are some of the
mm.
key elements from the people who are going to sustain this change? You talked a lot
Mm.
about influence. I don't know if you can share three things from your experience working with youth, and this would apply across youth. Key elements to sustain a major change, to influence hearts, to change minds, that sometimes is missing in some of the movements that we're seeing.
Mm. Thank you. That's a big question. It's a big question. If I can pack it up in this one quick question, but I'll try. I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed in sustaining this type of movements, and why they might fizzle out if we don't begin to think like this, is that there is sometimes a disconnect in understanding of how politics really work. There is a difference between active citizenship, activism, and then politics. One of the key things that anyone who's trying to push a people movement must learn, if that people movement is going to be focused on, pushing a new generation of leaders into offices, is to identify and understand how the current system works.
Mm,
Understand how the current system works. You then add what makes you special and different.
yeah.
You're more.
Mm,
If you come with your model alone
mm,
through a system that is a certain way for such a long time, and you haven't found the right cracks, or perhaps you're not necessarily going with the David anointing, because the moment you find Davidic anointing that is certain, we will
yes.
for this to fall.
Everything
But
happens. Yes.
but until then, if you're using strategy, then you
Mm,
have to learn the strategy of the enemy and use your strategy. That is why in football, the coaches want to learn the strategy of the other team.
right.
In war, the Britain will say, okay, we know that France will come from here. France will go here. France will go there. So we'll block them. Guess what? Quite often when people are trying to do good, they don't think about where the enemy is coming from.
They don't think about where the.
No, they
Mm,
don't think what the enemy is going to do. They're not
okay.
trying to be steps ahead of the enemy.
Yes.
They focus on good naturedness.
Yes, because you are good. You don't plan for the strategic
Yes,
opposition.
yes,
So
yes.
whatever we are doing, whether you are getting on a new job, like you said, what are you going to do in your organization? Remember, you
Mm,
want to make a difference. Are you going to go from village to village? Are you going to
yes,
Cavant? All of those things.
yes.
You gave so
So,
many scenarios,
so
but
one of
are
the
we prepared for opposition? Yeah.
key things that I find that the politicians understand is collaboration.
Hmm.
Good people do not collaborate enough. Good
Yeah.
people are want too good for each other. So
Wow.
even when you become the face, I will follow you. They say, no, why is that person the face? Why not me? So that's the current NSAS movement also was an almost leaderless, because everyone was afraid of somebody else judging them or attacking them. So everyone just wanted to stay back and say, let us lead together. And that was a different type of, structure that I thought that, let's watch. It could have led to something greater. But what people now need to do when they are building such movements is take time to take stock, look back and say, what worked, what didn't work, before you define what next. That's number one. Then number two, when you've taken stock, because quite often anger forces us into strategy. So many things that would have happened in that thing were not planned, but the anger and the passion inspired them. You now pack, since these are the things that worked, how do we use them going forward? And then you now identify who are the possible people that can partner with. Let's take a typical example. Biden winning this election was a collaboration between Biden, Obama, Kamala. When President Muhammadu Buhari won in 2015, it was a collaboration between himself, the APC, and people from PDP. Three parties came together. Good people also need to begin to think, who are the people? What numbers do those people have? How do we bring those people together on the table and form a strong union? And in forming those, you would also find people who you're not necessarily, they're not 100% like what you want, but they have all the influence that you need. So good people learn, on how to collaborate. There will be three things to you. It will be courage to be bold, to be different, to be diverse, but humility to acknowledge your weakness and bring other people in, which is my next point, collaboration. So courage to be bold, different, diverse, then humility to acknowledge your weakness. When you acknowledge your weakness, the next thing is to now collaborate. You bring other people. And then the final third thing I will say, because you said three things, will be curiosity. You now need to be curious.
Like that.
What are they feeling now? What would they need in 2 years? What do I tell them? Where is the world now? For example, the way we used to campaign some years ago is not how we campaign now anymore. Things have changed. So you're curious to learn the tools of the time. So it will be courage, collaboration, and
curiosity. Perfect. I like that. Very important. Now, let me make it a bit personal, given your experience, given where you've walked from. Yes, courage, yes, curiosity, yes, collaboration. For you to get to this point, there's a need because collaboration means we're very big on inclusive leadership in our network. Part of our leadership is we talk about inclusive leadership. That's why this platform, we're excited to see people from diverse backgrounds. Adebola, we're coming from a very tribal society, how difficult that is. But I want you to say what has been, if you can think of one experience that either you're like, whoa, that experience taught you a big lesson, a disappointment, a betrayal. What are some things that when you stepped out to influence people was a challenge or was a pushback, but you rose above it and you learned from it too? How you can push people away, but you turned around and you became an inclusive leader that is now on the forefront.
It's really tough. I think one of the toughest things you deal with in trying to be an inclusive leader is when the people you want to lead are pushing back at you. It's when the people want to lead misunderstand you. And that is why I talked, I talked to that point about, great people from Oprah to Steve Jobs to Dangote to Wole Soyinka, fella they were celebrating today at some point. People were, cursing him. I remember I was talking to someone today and said, people always speak about MK Abiola as a great man, but the same fella also called him ITT in one song and washed bad and, painted him. But Nigerians also, hailed him. There was one thing my mother used to say to me when I was younger. She would say, Adebola, tayeban lulu fun erora majo. So when you pay,
can you interpret that for us, please, for our multicultural audience?
You and celebrating you, dance with care, dance with half body.
Don't be too comfortable.
And forget that the same people that said, hail him, also said, nail him. So I think one of the things you have to learn is do not give your emotion, your validation to the hands of your followers.
Mm. Mm.
Do things for your own purpose.
Mm.
Many times you tell me to go to war. All the times we've done things, occupy Nigeria enough, everything we've done, the future awards, the business we built them because we were convinced. We believed it was time. We realized that that was the solution to the question in the country at the time. I never go to war when I'm not ready, because people that tell you go to war, you might look back and see them when the bullets are coming.
That's right. Yes.
So I learned that early, and because I learned that early, it has helped me shield myself
Right.
of getting disappointment. So one of, I mean, the tough thing the leader can face is being misunderstood,
Yeah.
because as a leader, a changed leader, you have to be bold, you have to be crazy.
Mm.
People are celebrating Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie today.
Mm.
There was a time Nigerians did not like Chimamanda.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember a time
Yeah.
when they hated a feminist stance? There was not name they didn't call her. When she got pregnant, they said, "Oh, why didn't she give her husband the baby to carry?" All sorts of things they said about her. Who has 5 doctorate degrees now in
Mm.
global universities, not in Nigerian universities? Who is celebrated around the world now? Who are Nigerians celebrating now?
Yeah.
So that's why you have to have courage. That courage you talked about, to
Yeah.
follow your convictions
Yeah.
and build your platform. I mean, I wrote about this. You can check my platform on Instagram, Adebola Lagos. My last post on Friday, my Friday fast forward, was about bias. People always have bias, but bias is a function of inexperience,
Mm-hmm.
lack of engagement with something, or sometimes ignorance. So
Mm.
you as a leader have to protect yourself. You have to learn, final point, you have to learn to tell yourself who you are and
Mm.
manage your emotions accordingly. You have to learn when to withdraw people access from you. You
Mm.
have to learn when to reorder relationships around you. You have to learn when to be on your own and focus on your mission. You have to learn when to do what? DATF1 Let the noise, the distractions of the market be quietened, because
Yes.
your vision is bigger than
Yes.
distraction. Your vision is bigger than the distraction.
Mm. Awesome. Your vision is bigger than the distraction. The nuggets are amazing. I know we've run out of time, but this has been, like I said, a phenomenal session. So many things, as everyone here, we know we are set for such a time as this. We really have a responsibility to shine as light. And Debola, thank you for continuing to shine. Lots of amazing nuggets. I can't wait to process it as well. The 3 C's we want to leave you with as you go into this next journey. Be courageous, be bold, be curious. Don't go by all you know. As pandemic has shown us that there's still yet much we don't know, and it's time for us to collaborate. I like what Debola you
Be
said. You may not have
collaborative.
you may not have the David anointing, but you still need the Spirit of God, even in your collaboration, to direct you. I think that leaves us with enough for us to take away. Thank you so very much for being a part of our first digital experience, and we look
Thank
forward to chatting with you some more later on.